Virtual Racing School was developed to provide support to the next generation of sim racers. No matter if you're a rookie or veteran or what car or track you'll be racing, our goal is to provide training every step of the way. We found that iRacing can be quite difficult without proper training. There needed to be a way to prepare for on-track racing. With VRS, you can literally learn from the best sim racers in the world, including four-time NASCAR iRacing World Champion Ray Alfalla.
And Ray Alfalla is a four-time champion of the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series.
Three-time iRacing Grand Prix World Champion Martin Kroenke.
Martin Kroenke becomes a three-time world champion.
Rallycross World Champion Mitchell de Jong.
Mitchell de Jong is now champion for the iRacing Rallycross World Championship Series.
And many other top sim racers. Data packs include everything you need to start learning. Our World Championship coaches create the data packs by setting a hot lap or a series of fast laps for you to compare, analyze, and replicate. Data packs also include a tutorial where the coach points out techniques they use to hit the fast lap. This gives you access to the latest driving techniques and setups before you even hit the track. Sign up for a free account and download the VRS telemetry logger. With this application running seamlessly in the background, your laps automatically start syncing to the VRS website. From there, you can analyze and compare two laps of your choice, whether it's your data, the coaches, or your teammates. VRS will automatically target improvement opportunities so you can get up to speed even faster. VRS also makes it easy for you to request and schedule one-on-one or group coaching sessions. These sessions can range from 30 to 90 minutes, and you can select the car, track, and setup combination of your choice. Visit virtualracingschool.com today to sign up and get started.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Season 4 of the Esports Racing League presented by Spec Racer Sports, Alliance Autosport, and RaceVoice here on Apex Racing TV. It's week number 3 of this young season, and tonight we've got two great races on tap. First up, our MX-5 drivers will try to repeat last week's Watkins Glen Draft Fest, and then the Spec Racer Fords return after a week off. With Brian Donati joining me in the announce booth after a well-deserved week off, and Apex Racing TV's Dennis Branch manning the controls, I'm Greg Ginsberg, and tonight we head to Sweet Home, Alabama, and Birmingham's Barber Motorsports Park. But whereas last week's venue, Watkins Glen, highlighted outright speed, at Barber's Alan Wilson designed 16-turn, 2.4-mile circuit, it's all about car positioning. And with their hands constantly moving on this tight, twisty track, Brian, in order to excel, these racers, they're going to need to identify and exploit their competitors' deficiencies very, very quickly, as Barber is notoriously a difficult track to pass.
Yeah, I tell you what, Greg, you may look like there's a lot of room out here on your screen, but trust me, as these guys are sitting in their sims, and even those that have been in real life that have been to Barber Motorsports Park, it is very tight, it is very twisty. You've got to set up the person in front of you that you're looking to make that pass. You've got to set them up, as you said, to have them make that mistake.
Yeah, Brian, as a matter of fact, it's funny, as you were talking, we were watching a number of cars coming out of the final turn here at Barber, coming out of turn 16 onto the front straight, and all three of them ended up using quite a bit of the grass on exit there, not even using the track and a little bit more, but using a lot more. And I was going and checking things out. So Road America, one of the other tracks that we race here in the Esports Racing League, is 55 feet wide. Almost all the way around, and it's not, it's considered an old school track. It's not that wide, but here at Barber, it's actually 45 feet wide, pretty much everywhere around the entire circuit. And so, while these MX-5 drivers, as they're out on track making their way around, and you see some of these views, it looks like the track is pretty wide, or maybe the MX-5s are kind of small. But when you then get drivers trying to find a good line to make a pass, it becomes almost like a procession here, that you've got turn after turn, lots of camber changes, lots of elevation changes. And like I said, as soon as you see a fault in the driver's style ahead of you, you got to exploit it. And of course, we've got these very short races, which makes it all that much more important.
Yeah, you could be out front one lap, and next lap you could be halfway through the back end of this field by just one mistake on one of these turns. And as you talked about, Greg, with these elevation changes, that could come really quick.
All right, Brian, and so we're now just about halfway through our 15-minute qualifying session to start the grid, to set the grid for tonight's 20-minute MX-5 sprint race. And so, tell you what, why don't we take a quick look back? The last time we had our MX-5 racers on track was last Tuesday night at Watkins Glen, and it was a barn burner. And like I said, it was a draft fest. It looked like a true club racing Spec Miata race, where at one point I think we had 12 cars lined up all nose to tail about 3/4 of the way through the race, all in in contention for the race win. And the margin of victory last week, Zach Burke, 19/100ths of a second over Morgan Burkhardt, and only another 3/10 back to Brennan Horan. That was your top three, with Reed Chanabrook and Kevin Langer rounding out the top five. And if we take a look at the points here, and although it is week 3 on the Esports Racing League, last week was the very first outing for our MX-5s. Zach Burke is your championship leader right now with 25 points based on that win. Morgan Burkhardt, Brennan Horn, your top 3, but you'll also see that Reed Chanabrook and Kevin Langer, they are tied with 17 points. Langer picked up a bonus point for clean running. He was one of the few drivers that raced clean all race last week at Watkins Glen, and he ended up taking up and picking up that extra point, so he is now tied for 4th. That puts Jameson Huffman right out of the points in 6th. But let's take a look at where we stand right now in qualifying, Brian. Caleb Patry, he is your fastest driver on track at the moment. Fast time 1:36.67. That is almost 3/10 up. Actually, now it gets about 2/10 up on Zach Burke, our sole Canadian in the field in the number 13 machine. Morgan Burkhardt and Jameson Huffman, the two All Sports Racing teammates, are running 3rd and 4th. And I want to welcome back to the series John Allen in the number 101 car. Good to see him back with us this season. I believe he actually sat out almost all of last season on the Esports Racing League, so good to see him in the saddle once again. He is currently running 5th with a 1:37.24. Brennan Horn, who we mentioned finished 3rd last week, he is currently sitting in 6th. But you can see here, Brian, as we're watching these drivers try to find their way around and try to set fast laps, a lot of what we would call creative lines around this course.
Yeah, Greg, I mean, you're right. You're sitting here watching it. Guys are trying to get by other people, and creative line is an understatement. They are just winging it as they go. As I'm watching some of these, going, that is not the fastest way around this racetrack.
Yeah, definitely not. And so, I mean, you can see here how wide the curbing is in some places, either at the apex or sometimes at exit, that actually opens up the track maybe a little bit more than that 45 feet that I was talking about. But the challenge of Barber is that there are so many places where the elevation changes, and there's about 80 feet total elevation change. So, not nearly as large as some other circuits that we go to during the season, where we're going to have the runoffs this year at Sonoma comes to mind almost immediately. But they are constant changes, and you'll find a lot of changes sometimes mid-corner. You've got a lot of blind entries. You've got a lot of blind exits here that all make it very, very difficult. And as difficult as it is to race, when you have 30 plus cars out for qualifying, and I think right now we have 28 cars that have taken laps so far for qualifying. Still waiting to see if Charles Vaccaro and Edgar Sanchinelli will take to the circuit to make 30 cars. You know, it makes for some very hectic racing there, as you can see coming out of the final turn onto the front straight. 4 cars all in line is Greg Mack, who is currently your 9th fastest driver on track, trying to find a way around, and well, he found his way into the gravel trap and into the wall, coming out of turn number 2, going into the carousel there. So you can see how difficult it can be.
It looks like he didn't even turn. He looked like he was just getting out of the way of everybody and just decided to just go dead straight, dead straight into that guardrail. He wanted to test it out, so that way when he got in the race, he knew how strong that guardrail really was.
That's right. That's absolutely right. All right, so we've got about 2.5 minutes left to go in qualifying. Patry and Burke still your 2 fast drivers on track. Morgan Burkhardt, Jamison Huffman, your top, rounding out the top 4. So not all that much has changed since the halfway point. But you can see here is the drivers. You see them making their way down through what is known as the corkscrew section. You know, not quite the drop that you have at Laguna Seca, but turns 7, 8, and 9, they come then into a very tight right-hander, and the key there is to kind of straighten things out before you get to turn 9, and but you know, it's all downhill, and it's very challenging for these drivers. Heck, that's actually a great view right there. You can see on one portion of the track where the drivers are dropping down right off in the background, they're all rising back up again. It's you know, it's just a topsy-turvy roller coaster of a racetrack, Brian.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting race. Again, we talked about as we got through all the way through this qualifying. It looks like we're about just under 2 minutes left to go. Guys are still trying to learn, you know, the right way and try to learn the right line to try to get through this racetrack.
All right, so having a few technical issues, I think, right now. So we'll continue to track these drivers on course while we get our feedback up and running. Driver just set a personal best fast time. Christopher Bermudez, driver of the number 21 car, he put in a 1:37.85. That puts him up into 11th fastest. And, you know, Brian, I'm looking up and down the order here and to consider how tight everything is here. We've got 3 cars that are in the 136s and about 3/10 separating them. But then we've got, let's see here, we've got 10 cars all in the 137s, you know, so again, very, very tight running, you know, and once you set a very quick time here, because of the traffic, it's, you know, I think some of these drivers probably finding it a little difficult to continue setting fast laps because you never know who you're going to come up on. But, you know, these are the same kind of challenges that you have in real life racing on real racetracks, is where I'm following right now Wanqi Lin in the number 30 machine. And he appears to be on a flyer. He is currently qualified 8th, Brian, as we are definitely running down. We've only got about 10 seconds left to go in qualifying here in the Ray Esports Racing League. And again, hopefully we'll have that have our video back for you here in just a few moments. We apologize, but Brian, time's a ticking down. And let's see here. And Wanqi Lin, he crosses the stripe. He does improve. He moves up to 8th, turns in a 1:37.43 on that last lap. As we still have a couple of drivers out on course trying to set final laps. Let's see who that may be. But, you know, Brian, as I was watching here, you know, drivers, they're putting in a ton of laps trying to set these fast times, not going and doing like one and done. I've got most of our drivers here anywhere between 9 and 11 laps in the books. Checking out right now, Remy L'Esperance, who I believe is still on track. Remy in the 013 car, trying to move up as we jump back over actually quickly to Zach Burke, who I believe is on his last flying lap right now. Zach currently qualified 2nd. There's Zach. He's currently qualified second, and I believe he did cross the stripe before the checkered flag came out. So let's take a look here and see if he can take pole away from Caleb Patry. Margin right now 0.10 of a second, and well, it looks like Burke calling things off before he gets to the checkered flag, so he's going to call it off. He's content to start from the outside of the front row, Brian.
Yeah, it looks like he got there at the end, and he may have been on a pace to set it and thought better of it, figured out, you know what, I'll stay on this side of the, to start second, and then I can definitely hook up with my teammate there, Caleb Patry and Morgan Burkhardt, and try to run away.
Yeah, and I think that's not a horrible idea, because if you start off on the front row, when you're starting off on the front row, if you start on the outside and you have the outside pole, as long as you can stick close to the pole sitter, coming through the very first turn, and the first turn is a left-hand turn. If you're on the outside going through turn one, you're set up for the carousel. You're on the inside there. Ooh, is a driver, and I think that was Mike James who had a small issue there with. Oh, actually, no, that wasn't Mike James. I think that might have been Joaquin Effinger, had some issues with the wall there a few moments at the end of the qualifying session. We've got a couple drivers still out on track, just trying to maybe get a little less little practice in. Mike, the final driver on course, but Brian, we should have our drivers starting to grid up now. I'll tell you what, I'll take the grid for race one, and then you can have the honors for the Spec Racer Fords when we finish off the night. So Caleb Patry is your pole sitter here for race number one. Fast time 1:36.674, 95 thousandths of a second up on Zach Burke, who will start on the outside of row one. Morgan Burkhardt and Jamison Huffman will make up row number two, the two All Sports Racing teammates, with John Allen and Brennan Horan making up row number three. Starting seventh tonight in the Team Esport Racer entry, Jordy Fike in the 09 machine with Wan Chi Lin starting eighth in the number 30 machine. We'll see how Wan Chi does. His doesn't seem to have the pace in the MX-5s that he does in the Spec Racer Fords, which really seem to be his forte. So we'll see how he does tonight, starting from 8th. Greg Mack will start 9th with Michael Keltner starting in 10th. Row number 6, Christopher Bermudez and Washington, D.C. region's own David Stern starting in 12th. Starting 13th is Lewis Lockshire with Remy L'Esperance starting 14th. We've got Kyle Vallejos 15th with Brandon Abbott 16th. Both Brandon and Andrew, the two Formula V racers, starting 16th and 17th, with John Wilson starting 18th. Ryan Carter will start 19th. David Castellania will start in 20th. And we'll run down the list of the remaining drivers here in the field as we talk about our sponsor for tonight's race, and that is RaceVoice. RaceVoice is proud to once again sponsor the Ray Esports Racing League and will take your driving to the next level with on-track audible performance alerts with RaceVoice and RaceVoiceSIM. Hear miles per hour, turn entry and exit speeds, upshift alerts, and other performance metrics which are selected and configured by you right in your ear while you're on track. To find out more about their products, head to racevoice.com. Go faster with the speed of voice. All right, Brian, so large field here, and looks as though John Casey, who did set a time in qualifying, did not make the grid in time, nor did Charles Vaccaro. So we'll see if they start from the pit lane, or maybe there's something else going on there, maybe some internet connectivity issues that affected Casey and Vaccaro. So it looks like the 78 and the 221 did not make the field.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see whether or not John Casey, like you said, he did make an attempt. So we'll see whether or not he starts off from the pit lane. That actually may not be a bad idea in this race, Greg, to start from the pit lane.
Well, other than the fact that you're going to have 29 or 30 other cars that you got to find your way through. Now, John did qualify, I believe, 25th. So it wouldn't be that large a change for him, but. still every little bit counts here. And, when we were talking during qualifying about how tight this track is and how hard it is to maneuver, I think here watching all of these drivers try to line up 2 by 2 and go through some of these corners side by side really spells that out, Brian. You can see how tight it is and how these drivers actually have to kind of adjust and play nice with one another to get through some of these little dips and drops and rises. As we've got the safety car now making its way down through the S's here, going to make their way. They're going to run uphill now here towards the final corners. We're going to see the pace car jump into the pit lane, and it does, as our pole sitter now has the field. Caleb Patry with Zach Burke to his right come through the final corner, through turn 16 onto the front straight. And Patry keeping a real slow pace here, not getting on the gas, but there we have a green flag, and they are underway. And you can see a little bit further back as we've got the 21 machine trying to make a great start there. Bermudez might have picked up a few spots as things start to close down going into turn number 1, but now heading through and into the carousel for the first time is our pole sitter Caleb Patry with Zach Burke. Jamison Huffman gets around his teammate Burkhardt, moving up into third. Burkhardt now sitting in fourth with John Allen, Brennan Horn side by side, and then we've got Wanchi Lin in the white and orange number 30 machine actually starting right beside Jordy Fike in the 09 as they come down now down the hill and head through the hairpin over by that big giant spider. And as they come on out, already Caleb Patry and Burke starting to separate themselves out just a little bit. But Brian, look right behind them. We've got Allen now who makes his way up to third. Burkhardt and Huffman all side by side as they come down into the corkscrew for the first time.
Yeah, I tell you what, Greg, as they come down in through that corkscrew, remember we saw this last season. There are certain drivers on here. As we got one car, looks like going slide off a little bit, and now you've got all stacking up there.
That went around yep. Brian. And a lot of drivers now that are off. There's the 75 of Siraj Pradham, who's trying to get back underway. He's now dropped a ton of positions. He's dropped, I think, 3. Brandon Abbott in the number 26 machine. Remember, he and his brother started 17th and 18th. Brandon in the 26 drops all the way down to 26th spot. Let's take a look at the replay here.
Yeah, as they start to head down through there, that looks like that may be the Pradhan car got a little loose, and then all of a sudden, as they just stacked up there, it looks like that was the 26 of Brandon Abbott that started to spin early, but then everybody else had nowhere to go back there. Now we're going single file down through the cross, the start-finish line, and up through and down turn 1,
we have another car
2.
that goes off, and I think that was Andre Jameson that just went off. Or was that Mike? No, I'm sorry. That was Mike James, I think we just saw go off. And, here's one that I'm not too surprised to see, frankly. Christopher Bermudez, who got that great start in the 21 machine. You can see he's on the pit lane now, I think with just a single wheel. And he was going side by side with a 10 car of David Stern for maybe the first half of the first lap. But he now has damage, and it looks like probably a lot of time in the pits as we have a new leader now, Brian, as Zach Burke gets past Caleb Patry going down into the hairpin, and that is our new leader, John Allen, in the 101 machine, having made up 2 positions. He's now sitting in third with Burkhardt and Huffman, 4th and 5th. Brennan Horn in the 45 machine, who had a very strong run, finishing 3rd at Watkins Glen last week. He is still sitting in 6th.
Yeah, it looks like Zach Burke just outbroke Caleb Patry getting down into that hairpin, Greg, and it looks like those two now are going to start to hook up and pull away. But John Allen and Morgan Burkhardt, they'll start to stick together here too, and they will try to catch that leader. As we talked about this, and as I was getting ready to say before we had that incident, we saw last season Morgan Burkhardt at this track in this same very car was able to get through the back half of this racetrack and be able to get through and get a little bit faster as we got towards the end of that 20 minutes.
That's right. As a matter of fact, I remember that battle is both Morgan Burkhardt and Jordy Fike almost all the way to the end. And running wide coming out of turn 16, the final corner, Wanchi Lin in the number 30 car. He's going to drop a number of positions now. He qualified 8th. It looks like he's gotten back in line in 10th after having made up a couple of positions on the first 2 laps. As we now look at the battle side by side, John Allen under attack from Morgan Burkhardt as they're side by side now as they make their way down and out of the carousel and make that run down towards the hairpin. And let's see if they can get that resolved. Great side by side battle with those 2 drivers. It looks like they know exactly where the sides of their cars are, Brian.
Yeah, it's still staying side by side. The guy that's benefiting from that, Greg, is Jamison Huffman. Is now he's starting to close in on that battle with Allen and Burkhardt, but now give Burkhardt that lead as they start to head down through turns 4 and then down through that hill. They'd actually be through 7.
Yeah, that's through the corkscrew there, Brian. And yeah, it brought Huffman right back into the battle. But, you know, if you take a look, though, it also allowed our 2 leaders, Burke and Patry, to separate themselves out just a little bit. I'm sure, always I think the key and one of the strategies here is to, try to separate yourselves out from the rest of the pack early. And with these 20-minute sprint races, it's sometimes very hard to do. So, if you have folks in 3rd and 4th start battling and driving halfway around a very twisty course side by side, on lap number 3, it's probably the best thing that you could hope for. And we'll see here whether or not, at Watkins Glen, if that happens, you can pretty much draft right back up, usually within a lap or 2. We'll see now as Burkhardt, Allen, Huffman, and Brennan Horn in that second little pack, if they indeed can do that. And it's starting to look like, at least for Burkhardt, Brian, that I think he may have gotten back up to that pack now.
Yeah, I tell you what, when we were sitting there watching the onboard with John Allen and watching Morgan Burkhardt, the back end of that car just dancing all around, as all of these cars are, with only 5 minutes into this race here, 5.5 minutes, when we get to that 15, almost into that 20-minute mark, Greg, you're going to see these cars really dancing. You're going to see a lot of guys are really going to try to find what they can get the most out of the cars as the brakes and the tires and the fuel start to go away in this car, on these cars.
That's right. And we were just watching a second little pack there of Greg Mack in the number 2 machine, Wan Chi Lin, Kyle Vallejos, Louis Lockshine as well. And, again, much like we saw at Watkins Glen, these nice little drafting packs. The difference is instead of being 11 cars deep, we've got about, we've got 3 or 4 little packs here. As you can see now, Jamison Huffman starting to attack John Allen as they come out of the corner for a moment there, get a quick little look as they come through the S's through turn 11 and start to make their way up towards the tunnel turn here. And for a moment, it looked as though the 89 machine might have something for John Allen, and now he's going to try and sneak to the inside. John Allen, as we get a nice view of the 89 car's radiator, is all over the back of the 101.
I tell you what, we drop a little bit further back, Greg, and Wan Chi Lin still, again, last couple times by was out in the grass there, but he got that and was able to definitely get by Keltner and Vallejos coming out of that turn 14 through the start-finish line.
Yeah, nice little move there going through turn 1 where Kyle Vallejos picks up another position on Michael Keltner. So move the red, white, and blue French flag flavored number 6 machine now back into 11th position. And as we were watching Wan Chi Lin, he's sitting right on the back of Greg Mack, and Jordy Fike just ahead, the 2 Team Esport Racer teammates, the 2 gray and black cars there nose to tail in that leading that second pack, which has fallen back about 3 seconds now, it looks like, from our first group of 6 cars.
Yeah, these cars will start to say single file or stay single file pretty much at least till halfway this race. Then you're going to start to see guys make a lot of moves and try to figure out where they can and where they can't make moves. Greg, we talked about this. This track may look wider, but when you start putting guys side by side going through certain parts of this racetrack, it's going to be tough. I would assume there could be some potential mistakes coming up any minute.
Yeah, I would not be surprised, Brian, at all, as they start to make their way through the final little section here, out of the tunnel turn, going through 15 and 16 and back onto the front straight now. And it really looks as though Morgan Burkhardt, driver of the number 40 machine, he's got very good pace. I think part of it is he was caught up in the draft of Caleb Patry, who is now a teammate, I believe, of Morgan Burkhardt and Jamison Huffman, but doesn't seem to cause Burkhardt to hold back there as he shows the nose just a little bit to the 198 machine, who is currently running in second there as they come along that somewhat long back straight, head down the hill and into the hairpin here. With again that big spider just back behind us and behind that camera view. Lots of very interesting sculptures around the track here at Barber. Really, we talk about VIR being a, like a country club. Barber very much along those same lines. Lots of different things to see there, including a very large motorsports and motorcycle museum on site there. It's really a great place to visit if you're going to be there for either auto racing or motorcycle racing. As we jump back over a little bit further back in the field, we're watching right now Peter Wolf with Wayne Buttermore. Actually, Wolf is the second car in line there. Andre Jameson, who had that earlier spin in the number 27, they're going side by side. Look how close they are coming down through the corkscrew as Jameson manages to hold off the 22 car for the moment. Wayne Buttermore in that purple number the purple number 73, and Joaquin Effinger very close behind as well as we jump a little bit further back up into the field.
I tell you what, Greg, that's just a product of these cars and racing here. That's a battle for 20th, and we're talking 2, 3, 4, 5 cars all within, tenths of each other this far back in the pack.
All right, so let's jump back up to the front of the field now, where things are, I would say they're not stretching out, but what was a single 6-car pack starting to turn into a 3-car breakaway as our leaders come onto the back straight here, and they drop down towards the hairpin once again. And here we are working lap number 7, and there we go. Morgan Burkhardt gets around the 198 of Caleb Patry, so move Burkhardt now up into second. Your leader is still the number 13 machine of Zach Burke. And then we've got Jamison Huffman sitting back and forth with John Allen, who's dropped all the way back now into 5th position. Oh, and Greg Mack, he goes around. And it looks like that's coming out of the hairpin, I believe. Brian, let's take a look at the replay here.
Yeah, it looks like coming down the hill, getting ready to go into the hairpin. Greg Mack may have just overcooked it a little bit getting into this turn. Oh, him and Wan Chi Lin. I noticed Wan Chi Lin just a little bit a second ago started to drop back, and now we know why.
And now we know why. And while we were focused on Greg Mack there on the early shot, we didn't notice that Wan Chi Lin went shooting off drivers right to the outside. So he's going to drop back a bunch as well. And there we go. There is Edgar Sanchinelli, who did manage to make the field. Sorry, Edgar, I guess we had to pick up the spin there. Edgar, though, is currently running 18th. He's picked up 11 positions even with that spin, so a great first half of the race here for him, as there he is in the Frito Sport Racing 257 machine, challenging the 22 of Peter Rolfe, now here on lap number 8.
Yeah, just went for a quick little spin, but able to capture that back up. But you're right, Sanchinelli up in the 19th place right now, battling for that 18th. But as we jump back up here a little bit further with our leaders of Zach Burke, Morgan Burkhardt, and Caleb Patry, like we talked about, Greg, Morgan Burkhardt getting around Caleb Patry that last lap, now starting to make his move and get his sights set on the 13 of Zach Burke. Both cars pretty quick. The guy that I'm watching right now is the 89 of Jamison Huffman. He was able to get around John Allen in that 101 machine. So move Jamison Huffman up to 4th place as he starts to reel in the leaders of Burke, Burkhardt, and Patry.
Yeah, and Brian, it's interesting there to watch that and a little love tap there from the 33 of David Castellano on Andrew Abbott. But for when Burkhardt got around Caleb Patry, it looked as though it was a very simple pass. Caleb didn't put up much of a fight, but just that little bit of time where they were side by side brought Huffman, Allen, and also Brennan Horn right back into that battle. And whereas it had been really a 3-car breakaway at the front, it is back to being a 6-car battle for the lead. As we jump a little bit further back, we're watching that 33 car who had just given Andrew Abbott the chrome horn. And we've got Kyle Vallejos and Ryan Carter back behind. Oh, and the 28 of Carter trying to make a move there on the 35 of Vallejos, and he gets it done to move Ryan Carter now up to 14th. He's made up 5 positions since the start of this race, and Vallejos in 15th right now, right where he started.
I tell you what, Vallejos is trying to battle that damage. He's got a lot of front-end damage from the last 2 laps of somebody getting loose in front of him and banging onto it. So that's definitely going to have some repercussions as this race continues to go on, Greg, at about 13.5-minute mark.
All right, and we were just watching here, also another driver who we thought may have started from the back of the field, John Casey in the, I love the paint job there. It's the John Casey special, a little play on the old John Player special cars there with the number 78 machine. He's made up 2 positions since the start. He is now up to 23rd. Great little battle there going on as he had just gotten around Joaquin Effinger, and it looks like he's about to make a move there on Wayne Buttermore as well. As we look just ahead, and Edgar Sanchinelli continuing his march. He gets around the 75 of Prodden, and he's got, who does he have right ahead of him? He's got the 22 of Rolf in his sights, and I guess actually that's where Sanchinelli's been the last couple of laps. I think he probably didn't expect. And we'll see here if Rolf could. Oh,
there's a lot of battling going on there.
And now the track's about 75% blocked. As both Prodden and Sanchinelli get together, going down through the corkscrew there. You can see how things just tighten up so quickly there.
Tell you what, Greg, I'm just wondering if that was a product of the car that was in front of him that was able to hit the curb and continue on, but it took that as a straight line, and they had really nowhere else to go, so they had to get back through that a little bit cautiously, which caused them to be more side by side than they really wanted to.
Yeah, it's certainly possible. All right, so looks like Andrew Abbott, we saw just a moment ago, he dropped into the pit lane, probably try to get some repairs done as we're back on board with the battle for the lead. And this is Morgan Burkhardt with Zach Burke just ahead of him. And we had seen there for a moment that Burkhardt had gotten up to the quarter panel of Burke as they are now dropping down through that carousel, and you can see what it looks like from behind the windshield there, Brian, as they use all of that curbing, and the cars just get tossed to the left and to the right as they come down that hill. But now we've got the fairly long run with this nice big corner. The S is kind of a chicane at 10 and 11, right in the middle of it. But Burkhardt starting to show a little aggression here. And maybe he's had enough of the 13 car.
I tell you what, Greg, watching them come through 11, 12, and 13 as they come up over the hill here now out of turn 14 and then heading back down towards the start-finish line. You'll notice cars are starting to really get up on the curbs a little bit more, and it's really starting to upset the curbs as our leader is going to end up coming on some lap traffic here momentarily. But as they get up on the curbs, it's really, really starting to unsettle the car. So we really want to keep an eye on that. Guys are trying to shortcut the course as much as possible, as Morgan Burkhardt looks like he's going to try to make a move there on Zach Burke, but thought better of it, and Zach Burke shut the door on him as they continue on.
Yeah, and that's the second lap in a row that Burkhardt's had a really good run out of turn 1. But as the track goes and moves back to a right-hand turn, Burke had just enough ground to come right across the nose. We saw Burkhardt have to check up just a little bit, which also helps the 198 machine. Now, the one thing I have noticed here is coming out of that hairpin is Caleb Patry doesn't seem to get a good exit out of the hairpin most times, and we'll see him here as they drop down through the corkscrew once again. It hasn't really hurt him all that much because, when he doesn't get the good run, it backs up Huffman a little bit, it backs up Brendan Horn a little bit, and he's able to draft back up to the leaders. But we'll have to see now as that lead pack is starting to come up on some slower traffic, Brian. I think that's Bermudez just ahead of him. Either it's Vaccaro or Bermudez just ahead. And actually, it's probably Bermudez because I don't think Vaccaro made the race. And we'll see what happens now as they come around some of these final corners coming through now, turn 15 and onto the front straight at turn 16. Luckily, it's only that single car. But Brian, as tight as this course is, that could really upset the apple cart. That's actually Brandon Abbott, driver of the number 26 machine, who had gone into the pits earlier and has rejoined the fray.
And Greg, let's keep an eye on Morgan Burkhardt. Remember last time he had a little bit of that computer glitch issue where he was blinking in and out, and he just did that just as we took our eyes off of that and moved back to this battle between, it looks like that's going to be Ryan Carter, David Castellina, I know I won't say that right, and David Stern. That's the battle for 11th, but keep an eye on that Morgan Burkhardt machine as he started to blink in and out last time by, so it'll be interesting to see for that.
Yeah, and for with Burkhardt sitting behind Zach Burke, it probably isn't going to be a big deal for Zach Burke. But if Morgan Burkhardt manages to either go side by side or to nose ahead, and Zach Burke then has to try and figure out where a disappearing and reappearing car is, it might be a challenge here as they start to make their way back up the hill. Here, great run, and you can see here as they take all that curbing. Patry using a little bit more there, able to open up that corner just a little bit more as they come now down through the S's here.
I'll tell you what, Greg, last time by coming out of that hairpin, you'd mentioned that Caleb Patry wasn't getting a good run off of the corner, getting a good exit. Had no forward bite. I think last time by, I think he did because he was able to run right up on the back bumper of Morgan Burkhardt going into those S's and then drop back just a little bit further coming out of turn 13 and 14.
Yeah, may have gone and adjusted his line somewhat. All right, white flag is in the air. I should have noticed that as we have only about 20 seconds remaining on the 20-minute clock here. And so it is go time now for Burkhardt. It is go time for Caleb Patry. And it is defend time for the 13 of Zach Burke as he leads the field now through the first section of track here, down through the carousel. They're making their way down to the hairpin, and let's see what happens. Does Patry get a good exit, or does he back up Jamison Huffman? Remember, Patry right now holding on to that last step of the podium. Burkhardt gets a great run, but just a little bit too far back. Can't quite get up to the side of Zach Burke as they dig out of that hairpin. A pretty extreme uphill run coming out of it, and time is starting to run out here for the number 40 machine, Brian.
Tell you what, Greg, look for that number 40 machine and Morgan Burkhardt to really start to make his move here when we get to 11, 12, and 13. That's where he's been strong pretty much all night long, able to get on the back bumper. Just can't make it work. But it's go time, as you talked about. We're actually past time, so this is definitely going to be it here in the next couple of turns. He's going to have to make a move somewhere.
All right, and as they start to make their way up the hill, we've only got a couple corners left as we head into turn 13 now, and only 2 more corners remain. They've got a right-hander. Oh, and Zach Burke gets loose coming through turn 14 and 15. Burkhardt checks up, cannot do anything with it, and Burkhardt is going to have to be content to bring his car home in second. Zach Burke, who almost saw the race go by the wayside on the very last lap, holds on to take the win there. Congratulations, Zach Burke. Burkhardt again coming in second. Let's take a look at the replay here, Brian, as they were coming in to the final corners. It was actually turn 15. And you can see here as he sets up for turn 15, seems fine on entry, but then and there was contact. Yeah, there was contact there. As looked like Burke was maybe trying to back the field up a little bit, and Burkhardt just got into his rear corner. Burkhardt gave him the corner and gave him the win. So finishing third tonight, Jamison Huffman, who got around Caleb Patry with all of that, with that melee in the last 2 corners. Patry drops to 4th. John Allen will finish 5th. Brendan Horan will finish 6th. Jordy Fike, Michael Keltner, Remy Esperance will finish 9th. Lewis Lockshine will round out the top 10. So a little sign of sportsmanship there from Morgan Burkhardt, laying back out and letting Zach Burke go and take the corner. And tell you what, we've got Morgan Burkhardt. He's sitting in the green room, Brian. Let's bring him on in, and we'll talk to him about that last lap.
Morgan Burkhardt, congratulations, finishing second here at Barber Motorsports Park. I got to tell you what, man, that was a great finish to this race. Talk about the ending there, and talk about that battle that you had there with Zach Burke.
Well, going throughout the race, I got shuffled back a bit on the start, so it was just kind of trying to get back into a striking position without using too much tire. And then kind of analyzing what Zach was doing, where I was faster, where he was faster, and then adapting lines based on that. And going into the final few corners, I kind of made a late lunge dive that didn't pay off, and I got into the back of him, and I didn't want to take that, and accidentally checked up. Caleb got into the back of me, and that's kind of screwed over his podium. So that one's on me. I don't feel bad about that, but it happens.
Well, that is racing, and I tell you what, it was a nice, good, clean run up until that point. You got to make that move in order to go ahead and pick up those wins. Who do you want to thank tonight for this finishing second here?
Well, I'd definitely like to thank the rest of the All Sports team for helping out in qualifying, getting good laps down. I'd like to thank Majors Garage for giving some great setups. I highly recommend going to check them out. They've got some good free baseline setups. And I'd like to thank my parents for putting everything together and helping me with the racing.
All right. Well, there you go, folks. Morgan Burkhart finishing second here at Barber Motorsports Park. Congratulations once again. Greg?
All right, there we go. Why don't we bring in, don't see Zach Burke. He's usually a little, not camera shy, but a little microphone shy here on the Esports Racing League. Let's bring in Jamison Huffman real quick, and then we'll go to break.
Jamison Huffman, congratulations, finishing third here at Barber Motorsports Park. I got to tell you what, man, that was one heck of a race. You started out pretty good there. You got shuffled back at the beginning. Talk about the ending of that race, and talk about that last pass there over Caleb Patry, 4th.
It was a very quiet race and just kind of manage tires and don't lose the pack. This is a very kind of just got to run your race and run it good. And Zach did good at that. He put in laps every lap and kept his tires with him till the ends. It's definitely a harder track to pass up because it's definitely can get some good runs. But that last lap, it was just checked up through there. Caleb got damage, and you got more damage than I did, so got the run on the straight, and that was kind of it.
All right. Well, again, congratulations. Great race. Way to hang in there. Stay tough and keep those leaders in the sight. Who do you like to thank tonight for this race?
I'd like to thank my parents for letting me race, and my teammates for racing with me and helping me out. You guys for putting on this show, and Stevie and all the new admins keeping it good.
All right. Well, again, congratulations, Jamison Huffman finishing third here tonight at Barber Motorsports Park in our MX-5. Greg?
All right, thanks so much, Brian. All right, so what we're going to do here, first off, congratulations to all our podium finishers in tonight's MX-5 race presented by RaceVoice. What we're going to do, we're going to take a quick break, thank some sponsors, and when we come back, we'll come back with qualifying for our Spec Racer Fords as they get ready for their 20-minute sprint to the checker. You are listening to Season 4 of the Ray Esports Racing League live from Barber Motorsports Park, and we'll be right back.
Virtual Racing School was developed to provide support to the next generation of sim racers. No matter if you're a rookie or veteran or what car or track you'll be racing, our goal is to provide training every step of the way. We found that iRacing can be quite difficult without proper training. There needed to be a way to prepare for on-track racing. With VRS, you can literally learn from the best sim racers in the world, including 4-time NASCAR iRacing World Champion Ray Alfala.
And Ray Alfala is a 4-time champion of the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series.
3-time iRacing Grand Prix World Champion Martin Kroenke.
Martin Kroenke becomes a 3-time world champion.
Rallycross World Champion Mitchell de Jong.
Mitchell de Jong is now champion for the iRacing Rallycross World Championship Series.
And many other top sim racers. Data packs include everything you need to start learning. Our World Championship coaches create the data packs by setting a hot lap or a series of fast laps for you to compare, analyze, and replicate. Data packs also include a tutorial where the coach points out techniques they use to hit the fast lap. This gives you access to the latest driving techniques and setups before you even hit the track. Sign up for a free account and download the VRS telemetry logger. With this application running seamlessly in the background, your laps automatically start syncing to the VRS website. From there, you can analyze and compare 2 laps of your choice, whether it's your data, the coaches, or your teammates. VRS will automatically target improvement opportunities so you can get up to speed even faster. VRS also makes it easy for you to request and schedule one-on-one or group coaching sessions. These sessions can range from 30 to 90 minutes, and you can select the car, track, and setup combination of your choice. Visit virtualracingschool.com today to sign up and get started.
And we're back here at Barber Motorsports Park for week number 3 of the Esports Racing League's Winter Series, or season number 4. And again, a great race we just had in the Mazda MX-5s with Zach Burke taking the win, Morgan Burkhardt taking second, Jameson Huffman finishing third, with Caleb Patry and John Allen just off the podium. Next up is Spec Racer Ford, and we've got a little bit smaller field here, about 18 cars or so out for qualifying right now. We're just about halfway through qualifying, so we'll get down to business here, Brian. First thing we're going to do, we're going to take a quick look back to last week at Watkins Glen and our RE2 race. Formula cars, they're not running with us here this week, but they will be joining us next week at Road Atlanta. And taking the win last week was Caleb Patry, with about a 3-second margin back to Murphy Nichols and Giancarlo Schooler. 0.07 of a second separated our second and third place runners there. So a great battle. And if we take a look at the points, after 2 runnings, the RE2s, they are the only class that has run 2 weeks so far. Caleb Patry is currently your leader. He has won both outings, both at Road America and Watkins Glen, and he's got 50 points to show for it. Zach Burke is sitting in second. Not the strongest showing for Zach last week. Came away with a 4th place finish and also a 4th place finish at Road America as well, but those 2 finishes enough to move him up into 2nd place right now, because Tyler Campbell, who finished 3rd in the first outing, finished 12th last week at Watkins Glen. John Vogel, who finished 5th, finished 13th, and that makes up your 3rd and 4th place runners in the points right now. And then Austin Knight, we'll have to see if Austin can join us here, if he's going to come out for Spec Racer Fords. I don't think he's out here. I heard that he was working another event tonight. He is currently sitting 5th in the points, but as you can see, early on, only 2 events, drivers very close, some real tight running there in the points. As you can see, Jameson Huffman and Murphy Nichols sitting tied in the points. And in Spec Racer Ford, they have not raced since our first outing of the season at Road America. Morgan Burkhardt is currently your points leader, having taken the win in week 1. Caleb Patry finished second. Zach Burke finished third. John Bogle and Steve Ray rounded out the top 5. And Brennan Horan actually finished sixth at Road America, but picked up a bonus point for running clean. So he is actually tied right now with Stevie Ray with 16 points. But you can see they're really, really close. But again, only one race in the books at this point in Spec Racer Ford. And I would expect tonight things might just open up a little bit here, Brian.
Yeah, I think they are. I think you're going to see, definitely a lot of passing in here as we look at our qualifying right now. And he said it early on, and you mentioned it too. Wanqi Lin in that number 30 machine, setting that fast time right now is at 1:34.11, followed by Morgan Burkhardt and Caleb Patry. And, well, actually change that now. Now it's Jamison Huffman and then Caleb Patry. I feel like we're in real life as they you start to mention their name and they go the other direction.
They're interchangeable, yeah.
Yeah, well, maybe they are. They're all
Brothers
teammates, so they probably all, they're all teammates, so it's more than likely that they could be all interchangeable.
Exactly there. So as we mentioned, Wanqi Lin, and we first saw Wanqi Lin race with us last season. I believe it was at the Laguna Seca round where he showed up on grid and took the win. I know he's been a stalwart of another one of the leagues that Stevie Ray organizes called the Weekend Warriors, which is a Spec Racer Ford specific league, and has run very strong there. So we'll see if anybody can get up to that 1:34.11. Right now, Morgan Burkhardt 33 hundredths of a second off. Jamison Huffman, Caleb Patry not all that far back. I was waiting to see, we had the Andrew and Brandon Abbott running that MX-5 race. I was looking to see if they'd come out to run in the Spec Racer Fords. Of course, both of them podium finishers at the SCCA's National Championship runoffs in Formula V, and the Formula V is not anything close to the what Spec Racer Fords are. I suspect we'll probably see them next week at Road Atlanta in those RE2 Formula cars here, as we've got a couple minutes left to go in qualifying, just about 2 minutes remaining. And look at there, the red, white, and blue machine there with the big screaming eagle on the front and the American flag on the side of Ryan Carter, the number 21 machine. He is currently sitting 15th with a fast lap of a 1:42.49 in the books.
Taking a look right now. I was going to say, sorry, Greg, we're taking a look at that 222 Mark Santana. So he's going to start to cross the start-finish line, see whether or not he can improve on that 1:35.62. It looks like he does not. Looks like he ran 1:35.89. So
yeah, there you go. So yeah, it does not improve on that. And Mark, this is his first season, I believe, running with us here in the Ray Esports Racing League. Put in a good showing at Road America. And I believe he finished in 10th position in the field there in what was a very large field. I think we had around 30 cars at Road America, and did quite well. In the RE2 Formula cars as well. He's currently sitting 8th in the points. As we're on board right now with John Wilson in the 82 machine. John is currently sitting 12th. Fast time set it last time by with a 1:36.57, and he's got this is his 5th lap here in qualifying, so not nearly the number of laps that some of our other drivers have put in. But I'm also noticing that the Spec Racer Ford drivers in this qualifying session have not put in nearly the number of laps that the MX-5 drivers did earlier, and does not appear as though he bettered his time. As we jump back over now to Peter Rolfe in the 33. Rolfe currently sitting 13th with a 1:37.04 as time is running down here on the clock. So this will be the last flying lap for Mr. Rolfe.
Yeah, still quite a bit of people still on track that were able to get past that start-finish line before that 15-minute clock ran out. So we'll have to see who can better their time. From their previous best, but these laps will count.
All right, so we're on board right now with Edgar Sanchinelli, and again, all last flying laps here will count. The number 257 car, we saw in the first race, maybe didn't have the outing that he had wished, as we just saw him go by Wayne Buttermore. It looks like he was off in the guardrail. And as Sanchinelli crosses the stripe, he moves. No, does not. Yes, he does. Actually, he turns in a 135.33. That moves him up to 6th. So he does pick up a couple positions there in the 257 machine on his very last lap. Have a couple of final drivers coming through. Caleb Patry, who crossed the stripe, comes home 4th fastest with a 134.5. Well, he just turned a 134.77, not improving on his 134.59, which was his previous lap. Our runners down in timing and scoring are a little slow on the uptake here, Brian. It takes, I guess they're calculating the times out by hand and then running up the stairs to the top floor of the tower here for us to get the times. So as they come in, we definitely let you know. Looks like now all of our drivers it looks like Brennan Horn is, let's see here. I'm trying to see if Horn is maybe still on a flying lap. I don't think he is. Yeah, he's just tooling around right there. There's Horn, second car in the Team Esport Racer entry. He's going to start ninth today in Spec Racer Ford.
Yeah, it looks like these guys will take it out as far as they can before the time actually stops them. Try to get, even if they can't get that lap to count, they'll drive it as far as it will until the game shuts them off and makes them go to pit road. So.
Exactly. So, yeah, I mean, especially, as it finally clears the track out and gives you a clear space to maybe work on some lines. We can see there, it looks like Caleb Patry was working his way around until iRacing decided that he was done. And it's time to grid up for our 20-minute sprint race here from Barber. Brian, let's run down the grid.
All right, starting on the pole in that number 30 machine from that Revolution Sim Racing is going to be Wanshi Lin with time of 134.113. Starting outside of row 1 in the second position is going to be Morgan Burkhardt in that number 40 machine. Starting inside of row 2, the number 89 of Jameson Huffman. Starting outside of row 2, the 198 of Caleb Patry. Starting 5th inside of row 3 is going to be the 2 of Greg Mack from Team Esport Racer. Starting 6th outside of row 3 is going to be the 257 of Edgar Sanchinelli. Starting 7th in the number 5 of Murphy Nichols. Starting 8th in the number 21 of Ryan Carter. Starting 9th in the number 45, another Team Esport Racer, is Brennan Huron. Starting 10th in the 222 is Mark Santana. Starting 11th is the 09 of Jordy Fike. Starting 12th, the number 82 of John Wilson. Starting 13th is going to be the 33 of Peter Wolf. And starting 14th, the number 73 of Wayne Buttermore. Starting 15th, the number 78 of John Casey. And starting 16th in the 700 is Joaquin Effinger.
All right, Brian. And so it looks like Murphy Nichols did not make the grid. We'll see if he starts from the pit lane. I know we always see Murphy from Frederick, Maryland, always seemingly having some internet connectivity issues. Hopefully that wasn't it, as we've got the pace car bringing the field around. So while they are on their pace lap right now, let's talk about our sponsor for tonight's race, and that is Spec Racer Sports. And for Season 4, we'd like to welcome them to the Ray Esports family. Spec Racer Sports' mission is to help fuel and support your addiction, the addiction to road racing. They feel that the way to accomplish this is by providing exceptional customer support, the parts and services you need when you need them at a fair, competitive price. Spec Racer Sports currently stables Spec Racer Fords and offers rental cars that are exceptionally prepared. Located trackside at Motorsports Ranch Houston, access to the track for a rental or a test drive can be easily arranged. In addition to new car sales, storage, and support, a complete complement of technical services such as chassis dyno work, driver coaching, and fabrication are offered at very competitive rates. Find out more about Spec Racer Sports and their services at specracersports.com. And Brian, as we've got a few more corners left here on this pace lap, I did want to also mention really quick that here for Season 4 of the Ray Esports Racing League, we're proud to announce the creation of the Excellent Driver Award. Trophies are going to be awarded to the driver who completes 5 of 6 rounds this season and who amasses the least number of incident points in iRacing. In each class, it's going to have its own award, depending on how many classes you run in, you've got multiple choices to win, and we want to thank the great folks at Esport Driver Club who are providing some trophies. So some real physical prizes for these folks if you come away with that award at the end of the season. As the pace car now is peeling off onto pit lane, Wan Chi Lin, our pole sitter, has the field. Morgan Burkhardt in the number 40 machine starting to his right. Huffman and Patry in row number 2. And a much faster start here, it looks like, for the Spec Racer Fords as Wan Chi Lin leads them onto the front straight. Green flag is in the air, and Wan Chi Lin, gosh, it looks like they're barely moving here, but now moving to the inside for a moment is Caleb Patry. And and Wan Chi Lin, the car gets loose. He goes around. Burkhardt gets into him as he's spinning around, as they are now crawling through, and as they now get back underway, it looks as though Wan Chi Lin has recovered. But Caleb Patry, he is your new leader. Greg Mack in the number 2 machine, he is now taken over second place. Then we've got Edgar Sanchinelli, Jordy Fike as well. And let's go. We'll take a look at the replay here as they come down the front straight.
Yeah, Greg, looks like they get a really good run. Then it looks like he realizes that one of them is there, and he just loses the front end of that car and that nose trying to get in there. The brake. Looks like he noticed somebody was going to try to make that move on the inside of him and take him 3 wide. Didn't do it, ended up getting back in line, but he had already lost that nose. Yeah,
and again, I don't think there was any contact there. I think he just lost the nose and then tried to correct, and obviously came right across the path of Morgan Burkhardt. So Wan Chi Lin, our pole sitter, he is now in the pits. Morgan Burkhardt is sitting all the way down in 14th position, and we're watching a little bit further back in the field right now. We'll go back to our leaders in a moment here, as we've got John Casey, Wayne Buttermore, the 78 and the 73. They are trailing right behind Brennan Horn in the 45 machine. Horn started in, I believe, 10th position. As we have, I believe that's who was that? That just went around there?
That was Joaquin Effinger, and then I think he almost collected Jamison Huffman. Jamison Huffman got sideways there too, coming out of that turn.
Yeah, and so Huffman, who started off on row number 2, ends up in the guardrail coming through turn 15 before he comes around to complete the first lap. It's been a horrendous lap for the All Sports Racer folks here. Let's take a look at the replay as Huffman was trying to make his way back up the field, and as Effinger went around, and Effinger just as he rolled back across the track, got into the back of the 89 machine. And then the 89 machine having trouble there trying to get the car turned around. So horrible night so far here in Spec Racer Ford for Jamison Huffman and for Morgan Burkhardt. Caleb Patry, though, he is your current leader in the 198 machine, and we're on board right now with our new second place runner. He's made up 3 positions. That is Greg Mack in the number 2 machine. We've got 2 Team Esport Racer drivers running towards the front of the pack here. It's Greg Mack in the number 2, and then Jordy Fike in the 09, who's made up 8 positions since the start. Definitely a recipient of some very good luck here, as is Peter Rolfe in the orange number 33, who has made up 9 positions with all of that carnage and mayhem that we saw during the opening lap. Here, sitting right back behind him, Edgar Sanchinelli in the 257 machine, and then Mark Santana in the 222. But with all that mayhem, just in the opening corner, Brian, you can see here coming down into turn 1 to starting lap number 3, Caleb Patry has now really separated himself out from the rest of the field with a margin now of almost 3 full seconds. He's just got to put his head down and turn in laps.
Yeah, pretty much 3 of our top 4 starters all had problems there, on that start with the, with the Wan Chi Lin wreck, and then obviously, the 89 there of Jameson Huffman getting collected again in that Joaquin Effinger machine. But as we look back in this battle here between Greg Mack and Jordy Fike, those two, they're probably talking to each other saying, hey, let's go ahead and just stay nose to tail as quickly as we can and run and see if we can't run down Caleb Patry. As Edgar Sanchinelli now gets in front of the 33 of Peter Rolfe. It looks like he was a lot faster there the last time by too. Wasn't able to get a hold of him. So we'll look for Edgar Sanchinelli to move up with that Greg Mack and that Jordy Fike. So it looks like we had one car go around back there. That may be the 82 of John Wilson sitting back there in the track as he's starting to drop, because he was right there with Rolfe and Santana at one point.
Yeah, and he's taking Wilson there, taking a bird's eye view, taking the long tour of the gravel trap, I believe on the outside of the carousel. Oh, and Sanchinelli getting loose as they now start to make their way up the hill. That was coming through turn 12 and 13 as they come through the final turn complex here through now 14, 15, and 16 onto the front straight. So that's going to slow Sanchinelli's charge up just a little bit, but he is starting to make up a little bit of ground, even with that little. Well, I don't want to call it a spin. It wasn't a spin, but where he got loose, he was still only about a tenth. He picked up a tenth on Jordy Fike and Greg Mack. So again, starting to close things down there. He is starting to separate himself out from Peter Rolfe and Mark Santana in what could turn out to be a great battle for second here if Sanchinelli can work his way up, and he may act as a bridge and maybe bring the 33 and the 222 along with him.
Yeah, I think you're right, Greg. I think that all three of those are going to end up getting back together nose to tail, and that'll end up being that battle for fourth. I think Greg Mack and Jordy Fike are just content to sit right here and try to run some laps. As last time by, Caleb Patry all by himself ran the fastest lap of the race at that 1:34.63. So almost qualifying times there. And
look at this, Brian. As both Mack and Fike now have closed things down on Caleb Patry. Patry, who ran the fastest lap of the race last time by, he has now seen what was a 3-second advantage now drop to almost a half second. Here's the two Team Esport racers have really closed things down on the 198 car.
Yeah, something had to happen there. He probably either got really loose or ran over one of those curbs. And ended up upsetting the car really quickly, because you're right. He went from a 3-second lead now down to just half a second, almost 3/10 of a second back to Greg Mack and Jordy Fike.
All right, and there, and I guess that strategy, the two Team Esport racer folks just working together, not challenging one another, and I guess they're happy there with Greg Mack being the lead car. With Fike running shotgun, and they've been able to work their way back up, and they are definitely close enough now to be within the slipstream, be within the toe of Caleb Patry, which is just what they needed, just what they wanted here, so that again they can kind of maybe if they hold station there, they can work their way clear of Sanchinelli, but Sanchinelli's making up ground as well. Three of our top four drivers just ran their fastest laps of the race. The only one who didn't was Caleb Patry. And to put things in perspective, he ran about 3 seconds off of what Mack, Fike, and Sanchinelli were running. As we drop a little bit further back in the field here, and as we see John Casey coming down the hill there, and he was challenging Wayne Buttermore in the 73 machine as they came down the hill. It looks like Casey just had the rear end step out on him, Brian.
Yeah, just like he got a little loose, trying to overdrive that and trying to catch Wayne Buttermore, and just end up losing the back end of that car.
All right, well, as quickly as Caleb Patry had seen his lead dissolve and go drop down all the way to 0.3 of a second, he puts in a burner this last lap, turns in a 1:34.75, and he gains back over 0.8 on Mack and Fike. Margin now over a full second, and I think that would probably drop the number 2 and the 09 out of the draft of Caleb Patry. So when he needed to put in one of those hero laps, he went and did it, and has given himself at least a little bit of breathing room for now.
Yeah, like I said, I think something may have happened there, because they dropped. He dropped 3 seconds from that last lap. He ran a 1:38, now back down to a 1:34.75. So again, something something happened on that last lap. It's going to be tough for these two to catch him, but you know, like we talked about, these two of Greg Mack and Jordy Fike, they're going to have to stay nose to tail, because don't forget, you got that 257 Edgar Sanchinelli right behind them, and he's starting to close in a little bit on that group there. So that could be the battle for that last podium spot.
You know, Brian, as we're on board right now with the 09 car, looking down into the cockpit from his roll bar, I was just noticing something as they went through the corkscrew, turns 7, 8, and 9. As Jordy entered the corkscrew at turn 7, the top of the hill where it's going, you know, you try and straighten it out, but you're left, right, left. And he entered in 4th gear. In the middle of the corkscrew was down into 3rd. On the exit of the corkscrew was down in the 2nd, and as he's powering out, you know, started then moving back up through the gears. And, you know, so you think about this, most likely they're not using the paddles on the wheels, and they're actually using a stick shift. Now, the Spec Racer Fords, they do now have in iRacing a sequential transmission, you know, but besides the track moving all over the place, to have to make the 3 gear changes right in the middle of a turn complex is just absolutely nuts.
Yeah, that's tough. You know, also trying to get on and off the brake and knowing where you need to shift, that is very, very tough to do, even in a sim. It's not easy just to do it on a sim, but to do that in real life and even to do it to sim, it is pretty hard to do. As we drop back here a little bit, Greg, we're looking at Morgan Burkhardt, who last time by ran a 1:34.41. That's the fastest lap of the entire event. Now, I will say that early on, he did make a pit stop, so whatever damage he had, he was able to get that somewhat repaired.
Right.
Probably got 4 fresh new tires, so that could be the reason why that 1:34.41 is the top spot, because he has fresh rubber on that car.
Yeah, and he had Ryan Carter hanging off the back of him for a little while. Carter had put the car around right as we were switching to that shot here as we go back up to, I don't want to call it the battle for second yet, because I you know, again, I see 2 drivers somewhat working together here, but I think Jordy Fike might be contemplating something here. As we're starting to see him drop, turning in maybe a little bit later in the corners, as if he was going to try and move underneath Greg Mack, but not able to make up a lot of ground on corner exit that I think it would actually, you know, require Mack to maybe let out of the throttle or make a mistake here. But they run the risk of Caleb Patry opening up even more of an advantage, which is actually now up to almost 1.8 seconds. Yeah, there we go here as Greg Mack now having the cover a little bit on Jordy Fike. That I think Fike now is ready to race.
Yeah, I think that Jordy Fike is a little bit faster than Greg Mack is right now, especially on that back half of the race course. We talked about this earlier on with some of these drivers. Some of them are better on that turns 11 through 14 all the way down into 15 than some of the other ones. As we look here at the 89 of Jameson Huffman now get back over Peter Rolfe in that 7th position. So again, the early problems Jameson Huffman had is starting to fix itself a little bit. Can see a little bit of damage on that right front.
Yeah.
But able to get through there. But, you know, we pick back up this Greg Mack, Jordy Fike, Greg. As I was saying, Jordy Fike is just a little bit faster than Greg Mack. Greg Mack may be holding that group up.
I think so.
I'd be surprised to see whether or not Jordy Fike needs to get by there to see whether or not they can reel in if he's in front of Mack at that point.
Yeah, matter of fact, that last time by both Mack and, or probably just both Fike and Edgar Sanchinelli in that yellow number 257 machine, running at a little bit faster pace than Greg Mack. And you can see it's taken a while, but Sanchinelli now has worked his way, and he's definitely now within the draft range of our 2nd and 3rd place cars, as Caleb Patry now stretches his advantage out to 2.5 seconds, as we now have just a little bit under 7 minutes remaining in our 20-minute sprint here in Spec Racer Vert. Oh, going around the 21 of Ryan Carter, and that was over in that last turn complex, coming through turn 15, coming through 14, going into 15. Looks like he might have had the rear step out on him, but he has managed to recover. That turn has been a huge sticking point for a lot of our drivers tonight, Brian, that it looks like they just haven't been able to get the car turned in for 15, and they've run wide there in that big sweeping, what is almost a triple apex right-hander.
Yeah, you almost want to try to not get on the brake as hard as you can, but You almost need to, and if you do too much, the back end will come around, especially if we start to get later in this race. But as you said it, Greg, it has been just a dogfight of a turn for our Spec Racer Fords here.
Yeah. All right, now Sanchinelli right up onto the back of the 09 car, so not only will Jordy Fike have to wonder whether or not he's got the pace to get around his teammate Greg Mack, but he's now got to look from behind, something that he hasn't had all race long, and that is pressure from Sanchinelli in the Frito Sport Racing entry. And we'll see, for a second there, Sanchinelli looked like he was going to poke to the inside. He does it again. I think he realizes he's not quite close enough. That turn one, as it drops away, still a very high-speed corner. But looks like he's trying to open up these corners maybe as much as possible here so that he can get a run. The problem is we've seen, Brian, of course, I mean, it's very difficult to make a pass here. And then to try and make a pass on two cars is probably even worse. But it might have been made a little easier for him as Jordy Fike now goes side by side with Greg Mack and pulling the 257 car along. He might get at least one of those cars down as part of this exchange.
Yeah, Jordy Fike able to make that pass stick, Greg, you're right. And now Sanchinelli and Mack are going to go side by side there, but Mack is able to get by Sanchinelli coming out of turns 2 and turns 3 down through 4. Now they're pretty much down through the hairpin there. Look like they're now through the corkscrew at this point. So again, as I said, Jordy Fike a little bit faster than Greg Mack, so look for Jordy Fike to start pulling away probably.
Yeah, and Brian, a little update on Murphy Nichols. Got word that he indeed did have some internet connectivity issues. Looks like he's ready to throw some hardware through a wall, I think, for those of us that are checking the YouTube comments. Sorry to hear about that, Murphy. Hopefully we'll have you back next week, and I'm sure he's going to have a good race with the Washington, D.C. region with their outing at VIR tomorrow night. All right, so we're on board right now. With the 09 of Jordy Fike just ahead of him. There you can see the number 2 machine of Greg Mack, and Edgar Sanchinelli is the trailing car there, third. And for a moment, I take that back. Greg Mack running in second with Jordy Fike. Let's try that. Let's reset that. Jordy Fike running second, Greg Mack running third, Edgar Sanchinelli running in fourth. That when we were watching from Edgar Sanchinelli up to Greg Mack. There we go. I think I got it figured out now.
Yep, you got it figured out. You got it.
Yeah, sorry to confuse everybody. All right, as we go on board a little bit further back in the pack, this is Morgan Burkhardt in the number 40 machine with Peter Rolfe in the 33. And as they roll down out of the the carousel there, we could see where Rolfe puts that car around, and he's going to... don't think he's going to lose a position there. I think he had enough of an advantage over Ryan Carter, but he's still going to hold there. As we've got a little bit of a switch there, right back behind our battle for second right now. We just saw Mark Santana, the 222 machine, that blue and orange machine, spin around, and he's gotten back underway, but he did lose a position, I believe.
That actually may have been the 45 there of Brennan Huron that spun there, because there's I believe that's the 89 there of Jamison. Actually, that's our leader, Caleb Patry. I thought Huffman may have gotten around Brennan Huron. Let's go back.
Here, all right, let's go back to a replay here with Fike, with Mack, and Edgar Sanchinelli putting the car around. Nice little, nice recovery there with the 720, but he ends up now out of that battle for the podium as he now falls almost 5 seconds back from Greg Mack.
We should be coming on at about 2. We should have 2 laps. We should have one more to go after this lap.
Yeah, exactly. As Caleb Patry comes out of the hairpin and starts to make his way, that little drop and then rise up to the corkscrew, as he'll now drop through and down through the corkscrew here, and you can see the intention in his eyes. Well, maybe not in his eyes, but he's you can see he's being uber careful here, but still is maintaining almost a 6-second advantage back to Fike and Mack. that I'm sure he's not looking for a redo of what happened midway through this race where he gave up a rather large advantage. But indeed, with just about a minute 10 left on the clock, as he now makes his way up into that 14-15 complex, heading over to the final corner 16 when he crosses the stripe with about 50 seconds remaining on the clock. He will get the white flag, and there you go. You can see it in the air as Caleb Patry, currently your leader, heading into the very last lap, followed by Jordy Fike and Greg Mack, the two Team Esport Racer teammates. And you can now see that Mark Santana in the 222 machine, he did manage to get around Edgar Sanchinelli. So Santana now running in 4th position, just off the podium, with Sanchinelli running in 5th.
Yeah, a little bit further back, like you talked about, Sanchinelli. He may end up catching Santana here on this lap to lap. He's got some pretty good, as long as he doesn't overdrive that car. That car has been relatively quick. As they take that white flag now, they start to head down into on this last lap as we pick up our leaders here now coming through the corkscrew. Caleb Patry, I tell you what, it's been a pretty smooth ride. And Greg, we talked about this early on when 3 of your top 4 cars end up going out really within the first 2 turns. And then it's just a matter of product of just don't mess up, just drive it aggressively, but be cautious the entire race.
Yeah, exactly. He's kept his nose clean when he needed to, and perhaps not the battle royale that we were expecting prior to turn 1 on the first lap, but Caleb Patry, as he now has just 2 more corners remaining. Let's make that 1 more corner. Caleb Patry, driver of the 198 All Sports Racer machine, he comes onto the front straight, and he is going to take the checkered flag here in Spec Racer Ford, and that is going to make for a very big change in the points here in the Ray Sports Racing League. Finishing 2nd tonight, Jordy Fike in the 09 machine. He holds off his teammate Greg Mack, who will finish in 3rd. Mark Santana in the 222. He will come home in 4th, with Edgar Sanchinelli finishing 5th. Then Brennan Horan crosses the line. Jamison Huffman works his way all the way back up to 7th. Morgan Burkhardt, who started on the outside of the front row, found himself at the tail end of the field at the end of lap 1. He works his way up to 8th. And finishing 9th will be Ryan Carter, and here he comes. And then finishing 10th, and not wanting to count chickens before they're hatched and stuff like that. But Wayne Buttermore, there he is. Now I can say it. Wayne Buttermore will bring his number 73 machine home in 10th. All right, so good run there. And again, Brian, not the race we expected, but it's the race we'll take.
That it is. Again, didn't expect all that at the very beginning. Thought we'd end up coming all the way down there to the end with the same group of people. Really thought Wan Chi Lin was going to, but as I said, when he loses that nose trying to get in and try to make that block potentially, in the first turn, that ends up upsetting the car.
Yeah, certainly. All right, so let's see here. Brian, we've got Caleb Patry, our winner from tonight's Spec Racer Ford race. He's sitting in the green room. Let's bring him on board.
Caleb Patry, congratulations on this win at Barber Motorsports Park. I tell you what, man, 3 out of the top 4 had a little bit of trouble there in the first couple corners. Talk about that race and talk about what you had to do in order to keep the momentum and keep, as calm and cool as you needed to be in order to get through that race.
Yeah, so the start went pretty well for me. I got a pretty good jump and was able to push Morgan a little bit ahead, and then turn 1, I just saw the leader on the inside shoot across to the outside, and I got loose trying to check up, but thankfully I saved it. And then after that first lap, I saw behind me there wasn't really anybody, but I mean, I was pretty sketched out with the handling of the car. It wasn't turning quite well through some of the fast corners, and then just really, really loose in the twisty, bumpy bits. So I made a little mistake, went wide, and thankfully gathered it back up. But I think the key was just to be smooth, because once I kind of calmed down and got back into a rhythm, it managed to drop my lap times. I found I really needed to be smooth, extra smooth with my inputs.
Yeah, we did notice that you went from a 3-second lead back down to almost a half a tenth there, and then built that back up to a 6-second lead. So I would assume that something may have happened, and then you just described it going a little wide, but then collecting it back up. So again, I tell you what, congratulations, great, nice, smooth run. Who do you like to thank for this win here at Barber Motorsports Park?
I'd like to thank Steve Ray for putting on these races, Spec Racer Sports for their sponsorship, Team All Sports for their setup and support, and you guys for putting on these broadcasts.
Well, I tell you what, we appreciate it very much. There's your winner, Caleb Patry from Barber Motorsports Park in our Spec Racer Ford cars. Greg, back to you.
All right, Brian. Thanks so much to Caleb Patry for joining us, our winner tonight in Spec Racer Ford. Again, final finishing order. Caleb Patry taking the win. Jordy Fike finishing second. Greg Mack finishing third, just off the podium. Mark Santana, Edgar Sanchinelli, Brennan Horn, Jamison Huffman, Morgan Burkhardt, Ryan Carter, and Wayne Buttermore rounding out the top 10. So that's going to wrap things up for us here from Barber Motorsports Park. But of course, we are going to be back next week for more Spec Racer Ford action and the RE2 Formula cars. They will join us as well. We're going to give the MX-5 drivers a week off, and we are going to be at gorgeous Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta next Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Want to again thank all of our great sponsors here on the Ray Esports Racing League, Alliance Autosports, RaceVoice, and Spec Racer Sports, as well as the great folks from the Esport Driver Club who are offering that Excellent Driver Award here this season. So for Brian Donati, for Dennis Branch, I'm Greg Ginsburg, and we'll see you next Tuesday night at 9 p.m. from Michelin Raceway. Have a great week, everybody.